My name is Ellen Arnold, and I'm a medieval environmental historian. I teach history at Ohio Wesleyan University, where I'm an assistant professor, and I'm currently a fellow here at the Carson Center. My research topic is on the cultural and religious ideas about rivers in the early Middle Ages here in Germany and the Low Countries. Well, the regions that I'm working on, rivers were in some ways the economic building block of the rest of medieval civilization, because they were not only necessary for keeping crops going and for irrigating fields and orchards and vineyards throughout the Mosel and the Rhine regions, but they were also then the means for transportation and for communication between cities, between regions, and for transporting grain and wine and other products. And then finally, and the thing that sometimes gets forgotten, is that rivers were also the main energy source of a lot of medieval industry, including grain mills that would be needed to turn the natural products into bread and grain and flour. And so the role of the rivers economically and agriculturally is really hard to overstate. What I'm interested in is finding out then, to what degree did medieval people acknowledge that role and the power of rivers? And how did rivers become culturally important in addition to economically important? And I'm part of the ethics group at the Rachel Carson Center. And so one of the questions that I bring to this is, to what degree did the medieval writers, most of whom were monks and who were themselves members of the religious elite and had religious goals in mind when they were writing, how did the rivers become part of that religious imagination of the moral codes and the ethical values of medieval Europe? And what I'm seeing so far, and I've got a long ways to go still before I can answer that question, but what I'm seeing so far is that the monastic sources and the religious miracles that happen on rivers validate rather than criticize the use of rivers to support human industry and human life and human economy. That unlike the desert myth that all monks were interested in was the wilderness, that the rivers appear as parts of, as valued parts of everyday life, and that this use of nature to support humans and to support good agriculture and good uses of economy is something that the monks valued. On the flip side, we also can see moments where the medieval authors are in fact valuing nature for itself. Do think that the river is beautiful because it's there, that the vineyards along the river add beauty to the landscape. And so interestingly, what I think potentially comes out of this is not only the religious justification of economic use of nature, but also a religious appreciation of nature, of the beauty of rivers, of the bounty of rivers, of the quirky characteristics, indeed, of some of the particular rivers.